The bitter winds of winter howled across the fjord, rattling the timbers of the great hall of Ravenholm. Shafts of pale moonlight penetrated the smoke hole in the roof, casting long shadows across the gathering of warriors and shield maidens. Sigrid Stormborn stood at the threshold, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air as she watched her father, Jarl Harold Stormborn, raise his horn in salute to the arriving longships. "The raids have been good to us this season," Harold proclaimed, his voice carrying across the hall. "Odin has blessed our blades." The assembled warriors hammered their drinking horns against wooden tables in approval, but Sigrid remained silent. At 20 summers, she had yet to find her place among her people. Unlike other women who had taken up the shield or mastered the healing arts, Sigrid felt drawn to something else, something she couldn't name. She adjusted the weight of the amber pendant around her neck, the only possession she had from her mother who had died in childbirth. The stone seemed to pulse with warmth against her skin, despite the chill in the air. "Daughter," Harold called out, noticing her lingering in the shadows. "Come join us. The Skalds will soon tell tales of our victories." Sigrid moved forward reluctantly, her woolen dress sweeping the rush-strewn floor. She took her place beside her father on the high seat, smoothing the embroidered apron dress that marked her status. The firelight played across her features, high cheekbones and eyes the color of the summer sea, framed by hair the shade of ripened wheat braided intricately and adorned with silver beads. "You honor me, father," she said, accepting a horn of mead from a serving woman. "But I fear I bring you little pride. I am neither shield maiden nor capable wife." Harold's weathered face softened. "You bring me pride by being who you are, Sigrid. Your mother would say the same." Before she could respond, the hall's doors burst open. A wounded scout staggered in, blood seeping through his tunic. "The Saxons," he gasped, collapsing to one knee. "They come with 3 ships, led by Thorne Oakenshield. They seek vengeance for our spring raids." The hall erupted in shouts and calls to arms. Harold rose, his hand going to the hilt of his sword. "Prepare the defenses," he commanded. "Sigrid, see to the women and children. Take them to the caves." "I should stay with you," Sigrid protested. "You will do as I command," Harold said firmly. "This is not your battle." As warriors rushed to take up arms, Sigrid felt the amber pendant grow warmer still against her skin. Something stirred within her, a memory just beyond reach, a knowledge she couldn't quite grasp. That night, as Ravenholm prepared for battle, Sigrid led the non-combatants to the sea caves north of the settlement. The winding path along the cliff face was treacherous in daylight, in darkness, it was perilous. Yet Sigrid moved with surprising confidence, as though guided by an unseen hand. Inside the caves, children whimpered while mothers whispered reassurances. Sigrid organized them, setting guards at the entrance and distributing provisions. When all was settled, she stepped away to the mouth of the cave, gazing out at the fjord below. The water shimmered with moonlight, and in the distance, she could make out the silhouettes of approaching ships. Saxon ships. Her hand went to her pendant once more, and suddenly, a vision flashed before her eyes, unfamiliar faces, a different shore, and a woman with eyes exactly like her own, placing the amber around an infant's neck. Sigrid gasped, staggering backward. The vision faded, leaving her trembling. "Are you well, my lady?" asked Astrid, one of the older women. Yes," Sigrid replied, though she felt anything but. "I must return to the settlement. My father may need me." "That would be unwise," Astrid cautioned. The Jarl was clear in his instructions. But Sigrid was already gathering her cloak. "Watch over them, Astrid. I will return." She slipped out into the night, taking a hidden path down to the shore. The fighting had not yet begun, but she could hear the shouts of men preparing for battle. Drawn by some instinct she couldn't explain, Sigrid made her way not toward the settlement but to a small cove where she often sought solitude. To her shock, a lone figure stood there, a man, tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in Saxon garb. His back was to her, but at the sound of her approach, he spun, sword half-drawn. In the moonlight, she saw a face both fierce and handsome, square-jawed with penetrating eyes and dark hair tied back from his face. His beard was closely trimmed, unlike the full beards of her kinsmen. "Who are you?" he demanded in heavily accented Norse. Sigrid stood her ground, though she carried no weapon. "I am Sigrid Stormborn, daughter of Jarl Harald. And you trespass on our lands, Saxon." The man's eyes widened slightly. "Sigrid," he repeated, as though tasting the name. "I am Thorne Oakenshield." "The Saxon leader," she said, taking a step back. "You come to kill my people." "I come seeking justice for the village your raiders destroyed," he replied, but he made no move to approach her. "Many innocent lives were lost. As happens when your king sends missionaries to force your Christ God upon us," Sigrid countered, feeling a strange boldness. Thorne studied her face with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "You have the look of someone I once knew," he said finally. "I doubt that very much, Saxon." Yet even as she spoke, her pendant grew warm again. A horn sounded from the settlement, the call to arms. Thorne's head snapped in that direction. "You should go," Sigrid said, surprised by her own words. "Before my father's men find you here." "Why would you warn me?" Thorne asked, clearly suspicious. Sigrid had no answer. "I don't know. Perhaps the Norns weave a strange fate for us both." Before either could speak further, voices approached through the trees. Thorne melted into the shadows with a final, searching look at her face. When the warriors found Sigrid moments later, she claimed to have been scouting the enemy's position. They escorted her back to the settlement, where Harold was furious at her disobedience but relieved at her safety. Throughout the night, she could not shake the memory of Thorne's face, nor the strange certainty that they had met before, though she knew it to be impossible. Dawn brought battle. From the safety of the great hall, Sigrid watched as Viking and Saxon clashed on the shore. Her father led the defense, his axe rising and falling with terrible precision. And there among the Saxons fought Thorne, his sword flashing in the early light. The fighting was fierce but brief. The Vikings, forewarned, had prepared well. Soon the Saxons were retreating, leaving their dead upon the strand. Sigrid watched as Thorne, wounded but alive, was dragged before her father. "You fought well, Saxon," Harold acknowledged, wiping blood from his axe blade. "Few men face me and live to tell of it." "Then finish it," Thorne replied, defiant despite the blood seeping from a gash on his arm. Harold considered him. "No. The gods have spared you for a reason. You will remain our prisoner until your people pay a suitable ransom." Sigrid felt relief flood through her, though she couldn't understand why the fate of an enemy should matter to her. That night, as celebrations of victory echoed through the settlement, Sigrid brought food and water to the storehouse where Thorne was held. The guard, a man loyal to her father, allowed her entry without question. Thorne sat against the far wall, his wounded arm bound with linen. He looked up as she entered, surprise evident in his eyes. "Do all Viking princesses tend to prisoners, or am I specially favored?" he asked. "I am no princess," Sigrid replied, setting down the wooden tray. "And I come because I have questions." "As do I," Thorne said, studying her face in the lantern light. "Starting with why you bear such resemblance to a woman I knew in my childhood, a woman not of Saxon blood, but of your people." Sigrid's heart quickened. "What woman?" "A captive, taken in a raid years ago. She died when I was young, but I remember her well. Her name was Freya." The name struck Sigrid like a physical blow. Her hand went to her pendant. "That necklace," Thorne said sharply. "Where did you get it?" "It was my mother's," Sigrid whispered. "She died giving birth to me. Her name was Helga." Thorne shook his head. "The woman I knew wore an amber pendant exactly like that one. She said it contained the soul of her firstborn child, a daughter taken from her during a raid." Sigrid stepped back, her mind reeling. "You speak falsehoods to confuse me." "I have no reason to lie, Sigrid Stormborn, if that is truly who you are." The doubt in his voice mirrored the doubt suddenly blooming in her own heart. The visions, the inexplicable connection she felt to this Saxon, the pendant's strange warmth, all of it pointed to a truth she wasn't sure she was ready to face. "I must go," she said abruptly, turning toward the door. The pendant, Thorne called after her. Look inside it. Freya said there was a marking inside that would identify her daughter. Sigrid fled the storehouse, her thoughts in tumult. She ran not to the great hall but to the shoreline, where the night waves lapped gently at the sand. There, beneath the stars, she examined her pendant more closely than ever before. The amber seemed solid, but as she turned it in her hands, she noticed a fine seam running around its edge. With trembling fingers, she pried it open, and there, etched into the hollow interior, was a small symbol, a spiral surrounded by 9 dots. The 9 worlds, she breathed, recognizing the cosmological symbol from the teachings of the Volva, the Cirrus who had once lived among them. But beneath it was something else, letters in the Roman style that she had seen on Saxon manuscripts, Freya plus Eirik equals Sigrid. Sigrid sank to her knees in the sand, the truth crashing over her like a wave. She was not Harald's daughter by blood. Her mother was not Helga but this Freya who had lived and died among Saxons. And her father? The sound of footsteps behind her made her turn sharply. Harald stood there, his face grave in the moonlight. You know, he said simply. How long have you known? Sigrid demanded, rising to her feet. That I am not your daughter. Harald sighed heavily. You have always been my daughter in all ways that matter, Sigrid. But by blood? No. You were brought to me as an infant, rescued from a Saxon settlement by my brother Eirik during a raid. Eirik, Sigrid repeated, looking down at the pendant. My true father. Yes. My brother fell in love with a captive woman, Freya. When she became with child, he planned to bring her back to our lands, but he was killed in battle before you were born. His dying wish was for me to find his child and raise it as my own. And my mother? Freya? Harald shook his head. I know only that she died. The man who brought you to me said she perished soon after your birth. Sigrid clutched the pendant, her world transformed by these revelations. Why tell me this now? Why not before? I vowed to protect you from the truth until you were ready. Or until fate forced my hand. Harald gestured toward the settlement. That Saxon leader, he recognized you, didn't he? Sigrid nodded slowly. He says he knew Freya. Then perhaps the Norns have woven your paths together for a purpose. Harald placed a weathered hand on her shoulder. You have always been different, Sigrid. Not just in appearance but in spirit. Perhaps now you understand why. The following days passed in a haze for Sigrid. She avoided the storehouse where Thorne was held, struggling to reconcile her new identity. She was still a Norseman's daughter, still a Viking blood through her true father Eirik, but the knowledge that her mother had lived among Saxons, had perhaps even converted to their faith, changed everything. On the 5th day after the battle, a Saxon ship appeared in the fjord under a flag of truce. They had come with silver to ransom Thorne Oakenshield. As Harald prepared to release their prisoner, Sigrid finally gathered the courage to visit Thorne one last time. She found him standing, ready to depart, his wound healing well. So you return, he said when she entered. I thought perhaps my words had frightened you away. Not frightened, Sigrid replied. But changed. She held out the open pendant, showing him the inscription within. You were right. About everything. Thorne took the amber, examining the markings. Freya was kind to me when I was a child. She taught me your language in secret. She spoke often of the daughter she lost, hoping one day you would find your way back to her. She's dead, Sigrid said flatly. As is my true father. Yes, Thorne agreed, returning the pendant. But part of them lives in you. And now you know the truth of who you are. Do I? Sigrid asked bitterly. I am neither fully Viking nor Saxon. I belong nowhere. Thorne's expression softened. Perhaps you belong to both worlds, a bridge between them. Before she could respond, the door opened. Harald stood there with several warriors. It is time, he announced. The ransom has been accepted. As Thorne was led away, he looked back at Sigrid. This is not our end, he said in her language. The Norns have more in store for us, I think. She watched him go, feeling as though a piece of herself departed with him. That night, unable to sleep, Sigrid climbed to the cliff top overlooking the fjord. The Saxon ship had sailed with the evening tide, carrying Thorne back to his people. In the moonlight, she saw a lone figure on the beach below, Harold, standing at the water's edge. She made her way down to join him. "You should rest, father," she said, the word feeling both familiar and strange on her tongue. "As should you," he replied. "Yet here we both stand." They were quiet for a moment, listening to the gentle lapping of waves. "I've been thinking about what you told me," Sigrid finally said. "About Eric and Freya." Harold nodded. "Your father was a good man. Headstrong, like you. And Freya? What became of her after my birth?" Harold hesitated. "The truth? I do not know for certain. The man who brought you to me, a trader who moved between our lands and the Saxon kingdoms, said only that she had died. I never questioned further." Sigrid turned to face him fully. "I need to know, father. I need to discover the truth of my mother's fate." "And how would you do this? Journey to Saxon lands alone? It would be madness." "Not alone," Sigrid said. "The trader who brought me here, does he still live?" "Gunnar Fastrider?" "Yes, though he hasn't come to our shores in many seasons. Last I heard, he had settled in Hedeby, trading amber and furs." Sigrid's determination solidified. "Then I must go to Hedeby and find him. He may know more of my mother's story." Harold studied her face in the moonlight. "This path you wish to walk is dangerous, daughter. But I see that I cannot dissuade you." He sighed heavily. "When the trading ships sail south with the spring winds, you may go. But not alone. I will send warriors to protect you." "Thank you, father," Sigrid said, embracing him. As winter slowly released its grip on the land, Sigrid prepared for her journey. She studied maps, learned what she could of Saxon customs, and practiced her swordcraft diligently. If she were to travel into unknown territories, she would not go unprepared. The night before her departure, as she packed her belongings, a servant girl brought word that someone awaited her at the shore. Curious and wary, Sigrid took her seeks, a short fighting knife, and made her way down to the beach. There, standing beside a small boat, was Thorne Oakenshield. "You," she exclaimed, her hand going to her weapon. "How did you return without being seen?" "I have my ways," he replied, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "And friends among your people who remember my mother's kindness." "Your mother?" "Aelfwine. She tended Freya during her captivity and birthing time. They became as sisters, despite their differences. It was my mother who helped Freya send you north after your birth." Sigrid's grip on her knife loosened. "Why have you come back?" "Your people paid dearly for your freedom." "Because Freya made my mother promise to watch over you if fate ever brought you into our lives." Thorne took a step closer. "And because I could not forget your face. When I returned home, I found this among my mother's possessions." He held out a small wooden box. Sigrid took it cautiously and opened it. Inside lay a silver armring of Viking craftsmanship, engraved with runes. "It was Freya's," Thorne explained. "Given to her by your father." Sigrid traced the runes with her fingertip. "Eric's gift," she whispered. "My mother told me the full story before she died last winter. Freya did not die in childbirth as you were told. She lived for 3 more summers, but her health was never strong after your birth. Before she died, she made my mother promise that if you ever returned, you would know the truth, that you were born of love between 2 worlds. Tears welled in Sigrid's eyes. "All this time, I believed I belonged nowhere. But perhaps you belong everywhere," Thorne finished. "Viking by blood, raised in Norse ways, yet connected to Saxon lands through your mother." Sigrid slipped the arm ring onto her wrist, feeling its weight, the weight of her heritage, of 2 bloodlines converging in her veins. "I am sailing for Hedeby with the morning tide," she told him. From there, I mean to learn more of my mother's story. Thorne's eyes widened. Then our paths align. I journey to Hedaby as well, to arrange trade agreements for my people. Sigrid regarded him suspiciously. Is that truly why you've come? Or did you know of my plans? The gods work in mysterious ways, Thorne said with a small smile. Or perhaps it is your Norns, weaving our fates together. My father's warriors accompany me, Sigrid warned. They would cut you down if they thought you meant me harm. I come with peaceful intentions, Thorne assured her. And perhaps with knowledge that may help your quest. Sigrid considered him in the starlight. Enemy, ally, or something else entirely, she couldn't be certain. Yet something within her trusted him, despite all reason. We sail at dawn, she said finally. If you truly wish to join this journey, meet us at the southern point. But know this, Thorne Oakenshield, I go to discover my past, not to forge new bonds. The past and future are more entwined than we know, he replied. Until dawn, Sigrid Stormborn. He disappeared into the night, leaving Sigrid with a silver arm ring and more questions than answers. Dawn broke clear and cold over Ravenholm. The longship waited at the dock, its dragon figurehead facing south toward distant Hedaby. Harold stood with Sigrid as the crew made final preparations. Remember who you are, he told her, clasping her shoulders. Blood of my brother, daughter of my heart. Whatever you discover on this journey, you will always have a place here. Thank you, father, Sigrid said, embracing him. For everything. As they parted, she saw Harold's gaze shift past her, his expression darkening. Turning, she followed his line of sight to where Thorne approached, walking openly along the shore path. What is this? Harold demanded. The Saxon returns. He comes in peace, Sigrid said quickly. With information about my mother. Harold's hand went to his sword hilt. How do you know this is not a trap? That he doesn't lead you to your death? I don't, Sigrid admitted. But I must follow this path, wherever it leads. I ask that you let him join our journey. Harold studied her face, then sighed heavily. Your true father was just as stubborn. Very well. But Ragnar and Bjorn will guard you with their lives. He gestured to the two burliest warriors among her escort. Thorne approached cautiously, stopping at a respectful distance. Jarl Harold, he greeted with a slight bow. I thank you for your daughter's safe passage. If any harm comes to her, Harold replied coldly, there will be nowhere in Midgard you can hide from my vengeance. Understood, Thorne said solemnly. With final farewell spoken, they boarded the longship. As the crew pushed away from the dock, Sigrid stood at the stern, watching her home grow smaller in the distance. Beside her, Thorne gazed ahead toward their destination. What will you do if you find the answers you seek? He asked quietly. Sigrid touched the amber pendant at her throat and felt the weight of the silver arm ring on her wrist, symbols of her dual heritage. I don't know, she admitted. But for the first time in my life, I feel as though I'm sailing toward something, not just away. The journey to Hedaby took 12 days, sailing south along the coast. Sigrid and Thorne maintained a cautious distance, watched closely by Ragnar and Bjorn. Yet as the days passed, their conversations grew longer, their mutual curiosity deepening into something more complex. Thorne spoke of his life in the Saxon kingdom of Northumbria, of his father's death in battle against Viking raiders, and of how his mother had taught him to see beyond hatred to the humanity in all people. She would say that blood feuds only ensure more blood spilled, he told Sigrid as they sat near the prow one evening. That someone must eventually choose a different path. And yet you led warriors against my people, Sigrid pointed out. After your raiders burned 3 villages and slaughtered everyone they found, Thorne countered. Even my mother's wisdom has its limits. The tension between them remained, a reminder of the blood-soaked history that separated their peoples. Yet something else grew alongside it, a recognition of shared humanity, of common purpose. By the time they reached Hedaby, the great trading center where Norse, Saxon, Frank, and Slav all mingled in uneasy commerce, Sigrid found herself seeking Thorne's company rather than avoiding it. His knowledge of Saxon ways would prove valuable in her search, and his connection to her mother's story made him an ally in her quest. Hedeby bustled with activity. Our ships from all directions crowded the harbour, traders haggled in a dozen languages, and the smell of exotic spices mingled with the more familiar scents of fish and wood smoke. Sigrid had never seen such diversity of peoples and goods. "We must find Gunnar Farstrider," she told her companions as they secured lodging at a Norse run inn. "He's the trader who brought me to Harold as an infant." "I know of him," said Ragnar, the older of her two guards. "He keeps a stall in the western market. Trades mostly in amber from the Baltic shores." The following morning, they made their way through the crowded marketplace. Merchants called out their wares in various tongues, while customers haggled fiercely over prices. Finally, they spotted a stall displaying polished amber pieces of exceptional quality. Behind it sat a grizzled man of perhaps 50 winters, his beard braided in the Norse style though his tunic was cut in the Frankish fashion. A long scar ran from his right eye to his jaw, giving him a fearsome appearance despite his merchant smile. "Gunnar Farstrider?" Sigrid inquired. The man looked up, his weathered face showing no recognition. "Aye, that's me. What can I offer you, my lady? Amber for a necklace, perhaps?" "I have pieces from as far as I seek information, not trinkets," Sigrid interrupted. "About a woman named Freya, and a child you delivered to Jarl Harold Stormborn 20 summers ago." Gunnar's practiced smile vanished. His eyes darted to her companions, the Viking warriors and Thorne in his Saxon garb, then back to her face, studying it intensely. "By the gods," he murmured. "It's you. The babe." His gaze settled on the amber pendant at her throat. "With Freya's necklace, no less." "Then you remember," Sigrid pressed. "I need to know everything about my mother. About how I came to be with Harold." Gunnar glanced around the busy marketplace. "Not here. Too many ears. Come to my house at sunset. I'll tell you what I know." He quickly scribbled directions on a scrap of parchment. "Bring only those you trust with your life." That evening, Sigrid, Thorne, and Bjorn, the younger and more alert of her guards, made their way to Gunnar's modest dwelling near the eastern gate of Hedeby. Ragnar remained at the inn, suspicious of a potential trap. Gunnar welcomed them inside, offering mead and a seat by his hearth. When they were settled, he studied Sigrid's face in the firelight. "You have her eyes," he said softly. "Freya's eyes. But the set of your jaw, that's all Eirik." "You knew them both well?" Sigrid asked. Gunnar nodded. "Eirik was my shield brother for many raids before I took to trading. When he fell in love with the Saxon captive, I was the only one he trusted with the secret. And when he fell in battle, I vowed to watch over his woman and unborn child." "What really happened to my mother?" Sigrid asked, leaning forward. "I was told she died in childbirth, but Thorne says she lived for years afterward." Gunnar's gaze shifted to Thorne. "And how would a Saxon lord know such things?" "My mother was Aelfwine of Northumbria," Thorne replied. "She was friend to Freya in her final years." Recognition dawned in Gunnar's eyes. "Aelfwine, yes, I remember her. A healer with kind eyes." He sighed heavily. "The truth, then. Freya did not die birthing you, Sigrid. But the birth weakened her greatly. When word came that Eirik had fallen in battle, her spirit seemed to break. Yet she sent me north," Sigrid said. "Why not keep me with her?" "Because she knew the truth of your heritage would put you in danger among the Saxons," Gunnar explained. "Eirik's last wish was that his child be raised among his people. Freya honored that wish, even though it broke her heart to part with you. So she gave me to you," Sigrid said. "To take to Harold." Gunnar nodded. "I promised to place you in Harold's care and tell him you were Eirik's daughter by a woman who died birthing you. It was safer that way, for you and for Freya." "And after?" Sigrid pressed. "What became of her?" "She lived 3 more years in the household of Lord Edwin, where she had been a captive. She was treated with some kindness because of her skill with herbs and healing. But her health never recovered. Before she died, she gave me this." He rose and retrieved a small wooden chest from a shelf. Inside lay a folded piece of vellum, yellowed with age. "She wrote this for you, though she never expected you would return to seek her out." With trembling hands, Sigrid unfolded the letter. The script was neat but clearly written by someone for whom the Roman alphabet was not native. "My beloved daughter, if you are reading these words, then the impossible has happened. You have somehow found your way back to the memory of your mother. I pray to both the old gods and the Christ God that you are well, that you have grown strong among your father's people. Know this, you were born of love that bridged two warring worlds. Your father, Eric Harold's son, was fierce in battle but gentle in heart. When raiders took me from my home, I thought my life ended. Instead, I found unexpected kindness in Eric's eyes. He learned my language, I learned his. He respected my faith, I came to understand his devotion to his gods. I send you north not because I do not want you, my precious child, but because I want for you a life without shame or shadow. Among the Saxons, you would forever be the daughter of a heathen raider and a disgraced captive. Among your father's people, you can be proud of your heritage. The pendant I place around your neck contains my love and my hope for you. Should fate ever bring you back to the land of my birth, open it and you will find the truth of who you are. With eternal love. Your mother." Freya. Tears streamed down Sigrid's face as she finished reading. She passed the letter to Thorne, who scanned it quickly, his expression softening. "She never stopped loving you," he said quietly. "My mother told me Freya spoke of you often, wondering what you might look like as you grew." Gunnar cleared his throat. "There's something else you should know, Sigrid. Freya wasn't just any Saxon woman. She was the daughter of Alderman Oswald, a nobleman of considerable influence in Northumbria. Her capture and presumed death caused great grief in her homeland." Sigrid looked up sharply. "Are you saying I have family among the Saxons?" "Noble family. If any still live," Gunnar confirmed. "The alderman would be an old man now, if he hasn't gone to his grave. But there might be cousins, uncles." Thorne's expression had changed, becoming more guarded. "Oswald's line still holds power in Northumbria," he said carefully. "His son Evald is alderman now, your uncle, it seems." "You knew this?" Sigrid demanded. "I suspected, from my mother's tales," Thorne admitted. "But I wasn't certain until now." Sigrid felt overwhelmed by these revelations. Not only was she the daughter of a Viking warrior, but also the granddaughter of a Saxon nobleman. Her identity, already complex, had gained yet another layer. "What does this mean?" she asked, looking between Thorne and Gunnar. "For me?" "For my future. It means," Thorne said slowly, "that you have a claim to lands and status in Northumbria. It also means that your existence could be seen as a threat by some, or an opportunity by others." "Opportunity?" Sigrid echoed. "A woman of both Viking and Saxon noble blood." Gunnar interjected. "In these times of constant warfare between your peoples?" "Yes, you could be very valuable indeed, as a hostage, as a bride to seal alliances, or as a symbol of unity." Sigrid felt a chill run through her. What had begun as a personal quest for identity now held implications far beyond herself. "I need time to think," she said, rising from her seat. "This is more than I expected to discover." Outside Gunnar's house, the night air cooled her flushed face. Bjorn stood guard at a discreet distance while Thorne joined her beneath the stars. "I'm sorry," he said after a moment. "I should have told you my suspicion sooner." "Yes, you should have," Sigrid agreed. "But I understand why you didn't. You weren't certain, and such knowledge is dangerous." They walked in silence through the darkened streets of Hedeby, each lost in thought. "What will you do now?" Thorne finally asked. "Return to Ravenholm." Sigrid touched her mother's pendant. "I don't know. Part of me wants to learn more about my Saxon heritage, about my mother's family. But another part fears what might happen if I reveal myself to them." "Your concern is well-founded," Thorne said grimly. "Northumbria's relationship with the Norsemen is complicated. Some seek peace, others vengeance. "And where do you stand, Thorne Oakenshield?" Sigrid asked, stopping to face him directly. "You who have led raids against my father's people, yet now walk beside me as, what? Ally? Friend?" Thorne's gaze was steady in the moonlight. "I stand with those who seek an end to endless bloodshed. My mother taught me that hatred only ensures more graves are dug." He hesitated. "And yes, I would call us friends, Sigrid Stormborn. Perhaps more, if fate allows." The admission hung between them, unexpected yet somehow inevitable. Sigrid felt her heartbeat quicken. "More is impossible," she said, though without conviction. "Our peoples are enemies." "Yet here we stand," Thorne replied, "a Viking princess and a Saxon lord, beneath the same stars. If we can find common ground, perhaps others can too." Before Sigrid could respond, Bjorn approached rapidly. "Riders," he warned in a low voice. "Coming fast through the east gate. 6 men, armed." "Probably just merchants or travelers," Thorne said, but his hand moved to his sword hilt. "No merchant rides so hard at night," Bjorn countered, drawing his axe. "We should return to the inn." They turned toward the harbor district, but had gone only a short distance when horsemen rounded the corner ahead. Torchlight glinted off mail shirts and drawn weapons. "There," one called out in Saxon. "The woman with the amber pendant." "Run!" Thorne ordered, drawing his sword. "I'll hold them off." "I won't leave you," Sigrid protested, pulling her seeks from its sheath. "Then we fight together," Bjorn growled, stepping forward with his axe raised. The riders surrounded them, torches casting wild shadows across the narrow street. Their leader pushed his horse forward, his face hidden beneath a helm with cheek guards. "Sigrid, daughter of Freya," he demanded in accented Norse. "Who asks?" she replied, gripping her knife tightly. The leader removed his helm, revealing a face perhaps 40 summers old, with a neatly trimmed beard streaked with grey. "I am Wilfried, then to Alderman Eveld of Northumbria. I come with urgent message for the daughter of Freya." Sigrid and Thorne exchanged glances. "How did you find me?" she asked suspiciously. "Word travels fast in Hedeby," Wilfried replied. "Especially when a Norse woman asks publicly about a Saxon lady thought dead for 2 decades. He dismounted, handing his reins to another rider. "May we speak privately? The matter concerns your grandfather, Lord Oswald." "Whatever you say to her, you can say before us," Bjorn insisted, his axe still raised. Wilfried eyed the Viking warrior, then nodded. "Very well. Lord Oswald lies near death in Northumbria. Before he passes to the next world, he wishes to meet his granddaughter, the child of his beloved Freya, whom he has mourned these 20 years. Sigrid felt as though the ground shifted beneath her feet. "How can he know I am truly his granddaughter?" "The amber pendant," Wilfried said, gesturing to her necklace. "It was his gift to Freya on her 16th birthday. And your face, you have the look of her." "This could be a trap," Bjorn warned in Norse. "To lure you into Saxon lands." Thorne stepped forward, addressing Wilfried in Saxon. "I know you, then Wilfried. You fought beside my father at Lindisfarne." Wilfried squinted in the torchlight, then his eyes widened in recognition. "Thorne Oakenshield? What business have you with this woman?" "I stand as her protector and guide," Thorne replied, switching back to Norse so Sigrid could understand. "And I counsel caution. How do we know your intentions are honorable?" Wilfried held out his hands. "I come with 6 men, not an army. Lord Oswald has perhaps a fortnight left in this world. He offers safe passage, sworn on the Holy Cross, for his granddaughter and a small escort. He wishes only to see her face before he dies, to know that something of Freya lives on." Sigrid felt torn between suspicion and a growing desire to know this part of her heritage. "I must consult with my companions," she said finally. "Where can I send word of my decision?" "We lodge at the Cross and Crown near the south gate," Wilfried replied. "But do not tarry over long. A dying man's time is precious." After the Saxon riders departed, Sigrid, Thorne, and Bjorn returned to their inn, where Ragnar waited impatiently. They related what had transpired, leading to heated debate. It's madness to enter Saxon territory with just 2 warriors for protection, Ragnar insisted. Let the old man die without seeing you. Your father would never approve this risk. But this may be my only chance to learn about my mother's family, Sigrid countered. To understand that side of my heritage. I know Wilfrid, Thorne added. He's a man of honor. If he's sworn safe passage on the cross, he'll keep his word. And what of others who've made no such oath? Ragnar demanded. The countryside teems with men who would gladly slit a Norse throat. The argument continued well into the night. By dawn, Sigrid had made her decision. She would go to Northumbria, but not with just Ragnar and Bjorn for protection. She would hire additional guards from among the Norse traders in Hedeby, men familiar with Saxon lands and customs. I'll accompany you as well, Thorne offered. My presence may help ensure your safety among my people. Though Ragnar remained opposed to the journey, he swore to protect Sigrid with his life. Bjorn, younger and more adventurous, seemed almost eager for the challenge. By midday, Sigrid had assembled her escort, Ragnar, Bjorn, 3 hired Norse guards with experience in Saxon territories, and Thorne. She sent word to Wilfrid accepting his invitation, with the condition that her entire party receive the same guarantee of safety. That evening, as they made final preparations for the journey, Thorne found Sigrid alone on the inn's small balcony, gazing at the stars. Are you certain of this path? He asked, joining her at the railing. Once we cross into Northumbria, we'll be dependent on your uncle's goodwill. No, Sigrid admitted. I'm not certain. But something within me needs to make this journey. To see my grandfather's face. To walk where my mother walked. Thorne nodded, understanding in his eyes. Then I will see you safely there and back again. Why do you do this, Thorne? Sigrid asked, turning to face him. Why risk so much for someone who was your enemy mere weeks ago? In the soft evening light, Thorne's expression was unguarded. Because in you, I see hope for something I've long desired, peace between our peoples. A bridge across the blood and hatred. He hesitated. And because when I look at you, I see not an enemy, but a woman of remarkable courage and spirit. The air between them seemed to change, charged with unspoken emotion. For a moment, Sigrid thought he might reach for her hand, or perhaps even, my lady, came Ragnar's voice from the doorway. Wilfrid has sent word. We depart at first light. The moment broken, Sigrid and Thorne stepped apart. Thank you, Ragnar, she said. I'll rest now. As she moved toward the door, she paused beside Thorne. Whatever comes of this journey, she said quietly, I am grateful you are beside me. His smile in response warned something deep within her, something that had nothing to do with amber pendants or blood heritage, and everything to do with the man himself. Dawn saw their party riding south from Hedeby, following Wilfrid and his men. The journey would take 10 days if the weather held, crossing first through Danish territories, then into the Saxon kingdom of Northumbria. As they rode, Sigrid found herself increasingly drawn to Thorne's company. He told her stories of his homeland, of the green valleys and stone churches, of the customs and beliefs of his people. In return, she shared tales of growing up in Ravenholm, of the midnight sun and aurora borealis, of the sagas and gods of the Norse. Our peoples aren't so different, at their heart, Thorne observed one evening as they sat beside a campfire. Both value courage, loyalty, family honor. Yet we've been killing each other for generations, Sigrid replied. Land, wealth, religion, Thorne shrugged. Always something to fight over. But it doesn't have to continue forever. Ragnar, overhearing, snorted derisively. Pretty words from a Saxon whose people send missionaries to convert us by sword if necessary. Not all Saxons support forced conversion, Thorne replied evenly. Many, like my family, believe faith must come from the heart, not the sword's edge. Yet you've led raids against our settlements, Ragnar pressed. In response to Viking attacks, Thorne countered. Would you not defend your home if raiders came? Before Ragnar could respond, Sigrid interrupted. Enough. We ride together toward an uncertain welcome. Let's not fight amongst ourselves before we face whatever awaits in Northumbria. As they approached the border of Saxon lands, Wilfrid provided them with cloaks in the Saxon style to conceal their Norse appearance. Better not to draw attention, he explained. Not all in these parts distinguish between peaceful travelers and raiders. 5 days into their journey, disaster struck. While crossing a densely wooded area, they were ambushed by a band of outlaws, neither Saxon nor Norse, but desperate men who preyed on travelers. Arrows flew from the trees, followed by the battle cries of the bandits as they charged from cover. Sigrid found herself knocked from her horse, rolling clear as armed men swarmed around them. "Protect the lady!" Wilfrid shouted as he drew his sword. Ragnar and Bjorn formed a shield wall with the hired guards, while Thorne fought his way to Sigrid's side, helping her to her feet. "Stay behind me," he urged, sword flashing as he cut down an approaching bandit. But Sigrid had not travelled this far to cower in fear. Drawing her Sikhs, she stood back to back with Thorne as the battle raged around them. The fighting was fierce but brief. Though outnumbered, Sigrid's escort were seasoned warriors. When the skirmish ended, the surviving bandits fled into the forest, leaving 7 of their dead behind. "Is everyone unharmed?" Sigrid called, looking around at her companions. Most had sustained only minor wounds, but one of her hired guards lay dead, and Bjorn clutched a bloody gash on his sword arm. "We should make camp," Wilfrid suggested, wiping blood from his blade. "Tend to the wounded and give proper burial to the fallen." That night, as they camped in a clearing, Sigrid helped dress Bjorn's wound. The young warrior grimaced as she applied a poultice of herbs she'd learned from the healer in Ravenholm. "You fought well today," Bjorn said as she wrapped a linen bandage around his arm. "Like a true shield maiden." "I'm no shield maiden," Sigrid replied. "Just someone who refuses to die without a fight." "The Saxon lord fought for you with great ferocity," Bjorn observed, glancing to where Thorne sat cleaning his sword. "He values your safety highly." Sigrid followed his gaze, warmth creeping into her cheeks. "We've formed an understanding. Despite our differences." Bjorn's expression grew serious. "Be careful, my lady. Even if this one Saxon has honor, his people have spilled much Norse blood over the years. As we have spilled theirs," Sigrid reminded him. "Perhaps it's time someone looked beyond the bloodshed." Later, unable to sleep, Sigrid walked to the edge of the clearing where Thorne stood watch. The moon was nearly full, bathing the landscape in silver light. "You should rest," he said as she approached. "We have hard riding ahead tomorrow." "My mind is too full for sleep," Sigrid replied, standing beside him. "Today's battle has made this journey feel suddenly more real and more dangerous." "Second thoughts?" Thorne asked. "No. But greater awareness of what's at stake." She turned to face him. "You fought well today. Saved my life, perhaps." "As you saved mine," he replied with a small smile. "That bandit would have opened my back had you not struck him down. We make a good team, it seems." "We do." Thorne's voice softened. "Perhaps a sign of what could be, between our peoples. Or just between us?" Sigrid suggested, surprising herself with her boldness. In the moonlight, Thorne's eyes darkened. "Sigrid," he said, her name almost a caress on his lips. "I've tried to maintain distance, to respect the complexity of our situation. But I cannot deny what grows between us." "Nor can I," she admitted. "Though it seems impossible, a Saxon lord and a Viking woman." "A woman of both worlds," Thorne corrected gently. "As am I a man who values truth above tribal loyalty." Hesitantly, he reached out, his fingers brushing hers. "Perhaps that's why the gods, yours and mine, have brought us together." Sigrid allowed her fingers to entwine with his, feeling the warrior's calluses that mirrored her own. "A bridge between worlds," she murmured. "Is such a thing possible?" "I believe it is," Thorne replied. "If we have the courage to build it." For a long moment, they stood together beneath the stars, hands joined, possibility humming in the night air between them. Then, with gentle inevitability, Thorne leaned forward, his lips finding hers in a kiss that spoke of newfound hope and ancient longing. When they parted, Sigrid felt transformed, not just by the kiss but by the promise it held. Whatever awaited in Northumbria, she would face it not just as Sigrid Stormborn or as Freya's daughter, but as a woman forging her own path between two worlds. And for the first time, she would not walk that path alone.